virus, and but still hasn't gotten her test results back, even though she was tested about 11 days ago on a Wednesday, and here it is. It's already Monday here in Thailand, Sunday in Denver, and still doesn't have her test results back. And then the office was closed this weekend anyway, or maybe closed Sunday. Let's let Maddie say. Maddie is on the other line. She sounds much healthier now. It's actually before we put you on, Maddie. Let's see if there's any comments come in to make sure it's feeding out, and it'll take people a minute or two. And
Nope,
yeah,
I'm
there
seeing
it
a
is.
hi from Maryland.
Yeah, there it is. Kelly Walter, hello from Maryland, and Petra, wherever you're at, Petra, and Grant. All right, let's roll then. Well, Maddie, you sound a lot better, and
Yeah, I feel a lot better. I feel like I have returned to being a living person again, which is nice. Still tired though. Uh, just kind of, after you recover from being sick or just in general, you kind of feel tired for a few days after. I still have that, but I don't feel as short of breath and I don't feel like sleeping 24 hours of the day anymore,
good. I
thankfully.
mean, you sound like when I called, your voice sounded like more like you did in Hong Kong, like high energy, sparky. You know what I mean? Whereas before, the week before, you were sounding like your battery needed some recharge.
Yeah, I definitely did not sound great, but thankfully over the past few days it's been a lot better.
How
Starting to feel alive again.
how was your sleep last night?
Um, Weirdly enough, I just couldn't sleep for the life of me. It was a very restless sleep, but it might just be because I don't know. Maybe it's getting warm here, so maybe it was hot or just a bad day of sleeping.
Do you have your air conditioner on or anything like that? You're in Denver, Colorado. What's the temperature like?
Let me check. I think it was about 60 yesterday, so it's 45 now. So
35.
it's not too bad. It's not AC yet. Oh, no, just kidding. It's 54. Just updated. So it's warmer than what I've been used to for the past few months, but not warm enough for AC yet.
Okay. So, and you have a roommate, and you said he's starting to show maybe some very mild symptoms.
Yeah, he started having a dry cough recently. So I mean, if I have it, which all of the doctors I've talked to, ER and the ones that I went and got tested with have pretty much said we'd be surprised if you didn't have it. So I would be surprised if he didn't have it, since we live in such close proximity. And he started coughing. He's kind of tired, so I'm starting to worry.
Okay.
So
Let's repeat again. You believe that you may have been infected on March 9th. I believe that's what you told me a week or so ago, right? Or more than a week
yeah,
ago
I
now,
got exposed.
right? You told me
So
that about 2 weeks ago, and so that was,
yeah,
and you know who had it. It was somebody you shook hands with, right? And then,
yeah, they tested positive.
so that was March 9th, and then it took a few days before onset of symptoms. It was how long before onset of symptoms?
March 12th, March 13th ish.
So
So in
that's
those
right.
couple of days.
Right. And then you got tested on a Wednesday. I don't remember what date that was.
I got tested. Let me check. It was the 18th.
You got
Okay,
tested on the
so
18th. So exposed on the 9th, March 9th. Tested on the 18th. Or onset of symptoms 13 or 14th, right?
yeah,
And then tested on the 18th. And now this is March 30th in Thailand, March 29th for you. So it's going to be at least minimum March 30th before you get results back, if you get them back on Monday.
yeah, yeah, which sucks because even though I feel better, I'm still stuck inside. They saying don't go anywhere, you have to stay inside. But I call them during the weekdays because they're only open Monday through Friday. I call them in the morning and I call them before they close, asking if they have results. And every time they say, oh, maybe it'll come in the next day or so. And then it turned from 2 to 3 business days to 5 to 7. And then the 5 to 7 has passed. And now it's just
this is the United States,
whenever.
and meanwhile, it sounds like Korea is doing testing in minutes at the border, literally getting results back in minutes. So it's not like they have to send it off. And this is incredible. I mean, you started showing symptoms on the 13th or the 14th, and today is essentially the 30th before you can possibly get your test results back. This is unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I can't get my head wrapped around it. Cody, of course, our mutual friend Cody. I saw him. You may have seen his message tonight on our group chat. He talked about he just
Yeah,
flew.
we've been talking.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you saw what he said. He just flew from Australia to where did he fly to? What
LA and then to Boston.
he flew from LA to Boston, and then do you remember what he said? I can pull up his comment actually.
Yeah, so he said he was telling me essentially too that when he flew in, when he landed in LAX, clearing customs and immigration, there was no one mentioned Corona. If he wasn't watching the news, he would not have known. Immigration officers made no point of telling him to self quarantine. There's only one hand sanitizer dispenser, and it looks like it was out of order. So yeah, it looks like there was no mention of it to him at all. But his friend who flew in from Finland a day before him, they were all stopped. They all had their temperatures checked, and the CDC took their information. Cody never got that.
Cody is a mutual friend of Maddie's, and we all met at the same time in Hong Kong, and they were and Maddie was in Hong Kong as a human rights observer, right? And Cody was there.
Yeah.
He's a merchant mariner, actually. He's American, and he's there as a medic. And in fact, when the huge stampede happened was that November 18th?
Yep.
Cody was out there. Or I was out there as well, but we were in different parts of it. Cody was there. I was with Eric, so we were away from the stampede. Actually, I filmed it unfolding, but didn't realize it until later. Was live streaming it. But then Cody, when everybody was stacked up, Cody's giant. He's huge man, and he was pulling casualties. He's a very heroic guy, and he was pulling casualties out of the stampede. It was horrific. And so Cody's a real stud. He's like Maddie. They're both getting out there, getting into the action day in and day out in Hong Kong in the fighting in the streets. So when you hear Maddie talking about her condition, she's not a whining sister. Let's put it this way. She's tough. She was getting tear gassed all the time. She got smashed in the back of the neck by police. You had to go to the emergency room in Hong Kong, but what was that for when you went to the emergency room in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I got stuck in a styrofoam smoke fire that the protesters set. And I didn't put on my gas mask because I was in the middle of the street getting footage of it all. And it messed with my lungs. And then the following night was also a big night, and I got really tear gassed, and I started showing symptoms of a pulmonary embolism. So Cody took me in, and they tried to admit me to the hospital. And I said no. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have a blood clot, and I was going home after that. So, yeah.
Yeah, actually, can you ask them, did they lose your test? I mean, this is, on the other hand, like Barbara Spalding says, sounds like they lost Maddie's test. On the other hand, Barbara, I've seen people commenting that it's taking them, like other people, it's taking them like 10 days to get test results. It's unbelievable. Again, whereas South Korea is reporting they can do it in minutes. And look, South Korea knocked it right down on its butt. And because they're nibbling it from above and below, they're hitting it with, isolation and wearing masks, which is, and they're also
no one does it here.
Yeah, and they're testing like crazy, and they can do it very quickly. We still don't have the ability to do serious testing in the United States. Otherwise, everybody who flies into the United States will be tested right there at the airport. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting so bad. A friend of mine who works he's a paramedic down in the Springs here in Colorado. He actually got, we call it voluntold, where they're kind of half told that they have to go and they kind of half volunteer. him and his partners literally drove in an ambulance to New York because of how bad it is, and they're staying there for minimum a month in New York
The,
because it's so bad.
it's unbelievable. It makes me want to jump on an airplane and fly. I don't even know if I could get home quickly from here in Thailand now because they're locking it down here. But I need to guard people here as well. Listen, somebody's left a comment here. Gambe Idraini. I don't. Where are you? I don't recognize your name structure actually. And you're going to get tested Tuesday. You're 90% sure you have it. Why wait until Tuesday? Where in the world are you? Can you leave a comment, Gambe Idrina? Can you see it? Can you see it there, Maddie? Her comment. Actually, there's a lot of people asking you questions as well. It looks like.
Yeah.
But I wonder what Gambe is. Where is he or she? If okay, and actually, Megan says, can you ask Maddie if she had any headaches? Maddie can see your questions actually, but anyway, Maddie,
Yeah.
Megan is asking,
So
did you have headaches?
yeah, I did have headaches, which was kind of hard for me because ever since my concussion in Hong Kong, I have a long history of them. I just consistently have headaches, so I can't really say for sure
She got
if it was the
a
virus or
concussion
not.
because the police hit her in the back of the neck and head. The Hong Kong
Yeah, they
police.
punched me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm seeing another one. Angela Boothmore was asking if I had seen a doctor for medicine. Unfortunately, when I got tested, all they could give me was a albuterol inhaler, but with a higher dose. And then until they said that I couldn't really do anything else until I figured out what was going on. Because now I'm hearing reports of things like Tylenol making things worse. So they're trying to be more cautious about what they give you until they know what's wrong.
Blaine, who's coming in under Gambe Adrien, already, let's just say Blaine, in male 31 in San Diego. Why do you have to wait until Tuesday to get tested if you are 90% sure that you have it? I mean, like, why not right now? Like 1 hour from now. I mean, if this were South Korea, you would be tested instantly, and you would know, like, what time is it? You would know, before your instant popcorn is ready, whether or not you've got it. This is why the United States is set up for a massive failure with severe numbers of deaths, which are at this point unavoidable. It's coming. It's the bullet is already fired, and it's going to start hitting a lot of. It already is, and at this point, all we can do is mitigate. But we see various states now fighting each other, as some of us have been predicting. Different, like for instance, between New Jersey and New York, or now New Yorkers squirting to Florida, and I guarantee you they'll also squirt back to New York because I know how I used to live up in, I lived in North Carolina and Florida. Of course, I'm from Florida. And I lived, a lot of New Yorkers go live in Florida or have a second home in Florida, or just go there for vacation. And a lot go to North Carolina, or they have what's called bounce backs. They go to Florida and then up to North Carolina, right? And so, they're squirting like they did at Wuhan, like they did in Italy, from the north to the south. Also, the same in India now. I just talked with one of my friends up in Kathmandu. We talked for more than an hour tonight. We've known each other for years. He's a documentary filmmaker. He said my lighting is all wrong. But anyway, he said that about 400,000 Nepalese workers, Nepal is on the northern border of India, right? It borders Tibet. Tibet is to Nepal's north, and India is to the south. And then, of course, Bhutan is over to the east. And then you get, anyway, long story short, it borders India. And he said about 400,000 Nepalese workers are now flooding back from India into Nepal. And of course, Nepal, if you've ever been to Nepal, I spent a year there. It's one of the poorest countries in the world. They'll just get smashed. Let's see what is Blaine saying here, and then I want to hear what you have to say, because you've been through a lot since March 9th, or actually since March 13th. Blaine is saying, Don't need hospitalization at this time, but my own knowledge and history of sickness, I can just tell you I've worked in healthcare for 10 years. Test is Tuesday because it's drive-through testing, so I assume this is my place in line. That is unbelievable. For whatever reason that you have to, if this were South Korea and you just put that on social media, I bet they'd be knocking at your door in like 30 minutes to give you a test. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
This is pathetic. And it's happening.
it's crazy.
If it was just one case, I might go, oh, that's anecdotal. Or maybe he's wrong, or maybe something. But this is the same story around the world, around the United States. And in Thailand,
Yeah,
I can tell you, Thailand is in great denial. Thailand, many Thais right now are still like many Americans, with huge denial. A lot of Americans are shaking that denial. And Indians, I spent almost a year in India as well. Indians are even more cocky than Americans. That's pretty hard to do. And Chinese too. Chinese and Indians are even more cocky than Americans. It's no joke. And so there's a lot of Indians that still, seem to think that, we'll be fine. We'll pray ourselves out of it or something. It's like, no, you won't. The Ganges River is going to be filled with bodies in the next month or two. I'll guarantee you, if you've ever been, you'll see. But I'm going to be quiet. I want you to look at any questions that you can answer, Maddie, and I'll just be quiet.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, also another thing. I don't know if anyone knew this, but I ended up in the ER the other day. One of my legs was swelling, and I have a history of blood clots. So it was one of those things where it was a blood clot that could have possibly been in my leg. And I went to the ER, and it was really different. So based on everything, they sectioned out the ER based on your symptoms. So I got put in, obviously, the virus area, where I had to make sure that I let them know if I had to leave my room to go to the restroom or something. They had people, before they would come in, they would literally completely dress up in mask, goggles, gown, everything to make sure that they weren't exposed. And then doctors were saying, because of the risk, we try and limit how many times they come in here. So instead of coming in and checking on you every couple of times, every 20 minutes like they normally do, they would come in once, maybe twice, and they would just consistent. One guy, due to his facial structure, couldn't wear a mask, so he had an entire respirator around his head with a little pack on his back that was filtering out the air. So every time he had to go into a patient's room, he had to replace a filter, get a whole thing on again, and just restart the entire process. He couldn't even drink water. He couldn't do anything because of how worried they're starting to get with this. It's getting weird, to say the least.
What's getting weird?
Hospital responses and the way that people are going about it. So, they don't test people. I didn't get tested because I had a test out, and they're trying to limit how much interaction you have with doctors and with nurses, which is the responsible thing to do because they're going to be the only ones keeping people alive for a while. But it's, yeah, and it's just people are getting very stressed about this whole thing, understandably. And some people in the ER aren't even wearing face masks. They come in and they just don't put them on, or won't use the hand sanitizer in the waiting room at all.
Hello, Ivona in Poland. Dobry wieczór. I'm actually going to call a friend in Poland maybe tomorrow. We've been communicating about what's going on in Poland. Well, I want to hear what's going on in Poland. You can see, Maddie, as you're talking about testing and whatnot, other people are coming on here somebody says, where did that comment go? Impossible to get tests in New York. And actually, here it is from Adam. She got a test in New York City. It's near impossible to get a test. I I got several emails and messages tonight from New York City. It sounds like it's just a complete cluster. And, and we got
It's
this, and this thing is obviously an orphan because we've got federal government now blaming. Well, everybody's blaming China because China is definitely originally the original sin. There's no question that the original sin on this is China. Uh, but then, as we saw the fire coming across the savannah, we had plenty of time to react. I mean, I've been talking about it since January, every single day, and finally, well, here we go. And so now this thing is going to be an orphan because we all know that great news has many fathers, and terrible results are always orphans. So now we've got, states. We got the New York City governor, I mean mayor, and the New York governor, kind of trading barbs, and then we got President Trump trading barbs with, well, kind of less, not, and they're trying to be smooth with each other, it looks like, but we have various governors and the president trading barbs, and we have governor on governor action going on. It's like, everybody's trying to say, yeah, we're doing the right thing, but who among you was saying in January, hey, let's take inventory? Do we have enough PPE for this thing? Who among you, not certainly not one of the New York health commissioners who was encouraging people. We've seen that video. It must have been seen by millions of people, where she's encouraging people to go, to some parade and to ride the subway and just basically live life as normal while there's a tsunami coming. So
yeah,
now everybody will try
we've
to
been abandoned.
now everybody will try to
Yeah.
push it away, but the fact is, this has been a cluster at every level, and anybody who says otherwise needs to show where in January, where they were coming out ahead of this and taking, for instance, inventory of their PPE and going, hey, we don't have enough masks. Why don't we have enough masks? Well, it doesn't matter. Let's get some. But they've waited until the ERs are almost full before a lot of them have started reacting. It's unbelievable. Maddie, you still don't have your test.
Yeah.
You still don't have your
I
test
don't.
results.
Yeah. And I've the most decisive action I've seen was in can't remember the four politicians, after they got a briefing on how bad the coronavirus was, they sold all of their stocks. It and I mean, nothing is I mean, I hate to say it, but doctors are telling everyone to fight it at home because there's nothing for them to really help you fight it with. You're kind of stuck on your own. I say this, hopefully I'm wrong, but we have been basically abandoned to deal with this on our own. Yeah, I mean, no one is really saying anything. We drove past a park on the way to the ER, and everyone's in the park acting like nothing is happening. They're acting like it's a Martin Luther King Day, a Monday holiday, where they're just out and hanging out with their families. And it's gonna come back and bite everybody in the butt soon.
Yeah, and as you know, there's a lag time for this. It's not like hey, I got exposed now and tomorrow, you're dead. That's one of the main problems with this disease, is that there's a long shot to bang to impact time. For instance, Ebola. Maddie and I were talking before we went live. Ebola has a much higher case fatality rate, but it doesn't spread in the airborne way that this one does. And there's different on this continuum of airborne spray. This one, the experts are saying it's about midway. It's not completely aerosol like dust like, but it's not completely droplet that hits the ground within 2 seconds after not the giant droplets. It goes in giant droplets and small enough that it can stay in the air for, some are saying, maybe even 3 hours, and possibly even spread by air conditioning, but I'm not sure about that. And I think the experts seem to still be unclear about that as well. But the point is a disease like Ebola, once you're symptomatic, you're already down. So, I mean, you're like, by the time you can infect others, you're already bedridden and close to death. Whereas this one, Like Maddie got infected apparently on March 9th and was asymptomatic until the 13th or the 14th. Finally got tested on the 18th, and here it is today. Still doesn't have her test results, and she happens to be a
Yeah.
very responsible person. But what about other people that are not responsible, or they have a bunch of children to take care of, or whatever? They got to work, or they'll be out on the street. Uh, but our country has set ourselves up for a very bad time. Go ahead,
Yeah, and
Maddie.
I mean, I think that is too. By the time we kind of realize how bad it is, and there's loads of infected people, everyone, people who are infected, seem to be hitting that critical point of being sick all at the same time. So, like, hospitals will have like everybody coming at once, which just overwhelms it. And then from that point forward, it takes over. It's very quick to completely disrupt everything that is going on in a hospital.
Hey, Andrea's got a good.
I
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead, Maddie, please.
Oh no, it's okay. Go ahead. Oh, I lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry. Um, Somebody asked, did you have chest pain? And I know that you said that you did, but can you explain that? But you said that like a week
yeah,
ago.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so the chest pain was it it was kind of, I had a long shortness of breath, but also like a really tight kind of feeling. It felt like if anyone's ever like wrapped a rib too tight that you've broken, or kind of wrapped if you're running track, it just kind of felt like it was too tight to really, it hurt. It was like a tight pain. It's like it felt like my lungs were wrapped in something a bit too much. It was weird. It's hard to explain it.
And your voice was very bad then. It's so much better now.
I feel like a person.
Yeah, I mean, and your energy. I actually, it sounds like your energy level is about 5% lower now than it was when we started the call. But when we first got on the line, you sounded like you did in Hong Kong, like total high energy. Let me.
Yeah,
Do
I
you
still
feel?
have
Go ahead.
tired, so I still get tired pretty quickly.
I was wondering
So
if
I
you're
spent,
feeling tired since we've been talking because I just sense that your energy's down just a tiny bit now.
yeah. So it's not bad actually. It's just kind of like over the course of a day. So I cleaned a bit yesterday because after being down for a week and a half, my apartment looked like a hurricane hit it.
Uh,
So I was cleaning yesterday and it just knocked me out. I took like a 5 hour nap in the middle of the day. It like it's still tired, but a recovering tired, thankfully.
Yeah, you said you did have some bad time sleeping at times. And then you sent one message a few days ago that you did get a good night's sleep, which was encouraging. I think
Yeah.
you got one really good night's sleep, didn't you? Um, hey, there's a really interesting comment here from Andrea Heimer. She says, "Nurse here on local buy nothing group." Anyway, asking people to donate baby monitors with video so they can limit going into the rooms. What a good idea. See, that's a
That is really a good idea.
super smart idea. So let
Because I
me,
mean, once
yeah,
they would come into a room, they would have to completely change the gowns that they were wearing. So even if it was like a 30-second conversation, they would have to get rid of everything
yeah,
that they had on them because
exactly.
it's
Because
disposable.
then they can't go to the next room. So let me actually, that's so important and easy that I should repeat it. Andrea is saying, nurse here. Bottom line is she's saying, uh, they need baby monitors with videos donated so that they can look at people without having to go into the room. That's just a great idea. Yeah, and you know what? Come to think about it, this camera that I'm working on and other cameras like that, whether it's an iPhone or something like that, could also be used for the same thing. We don't even need baby monitors, do we? We just need a camera. You know, you could set up a iPhone or something or Samsung, on a little tripod and just leave that out because the resolution's quite good, right?
Yeah.
That is a good idea and so simple. Um, there's a lot of people with comments to you. Hello in Germany. Hello, Uta. Wie geht's dir? Ich hoffe gut. And she says, hello from Germany. Prayers to Maddie and all. And hope everything's well in Germany. Something's up in Germany. I don't know how you guys are handling this. Like, I've been watching your statistics, and I mean, du weißt, dass ich in Deutschland 4 Jahre gewohnt habe. Yeah, you know, I lived in Germany for 4 years. But I know your medical system is is very good. Like one time I had something happen in Poland, and I went over to Germany to get treated actually. But it was free actually, and I wasn't even a citizen of Germany. Anyway,
Yeah, Hong
thank
Kong's
thank
really
you,
good for
Germany.
healthcare
I
as well.
remember that, Germany. Thank you. But go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's talk about your visit to the emergency room. But Uta, something about your statistics in Germany seem off. I mean, I don't know. There's like, anyway, we can talk about that later. Actually, Chris Martinson's brought it up before. But actually, can you talk, Maddie? Can you explain your experience again? Like, how much did it cost you to go to the Hong Kong emergency room when you had that when you had the inhalation problem?
yeah. So yeah, Cody took me and we went over and you go. There's actually two prices that you pay. So if you're a Hong Kong resident, it's equivalent to about $20-$30 US for an emergency room visit. And if you're not, for me, I paid 140 for the entire thing. So talking to a doctor, chest X-ray, blood test, all of it. And weirdly enough, they have a weird system where you sit in the waiting room, doctor calls you back, you do something, then you go back to the waiting room and back and forth. So they don't have here in the US, like they put you in a room and do everything in that room. There, they just kind of bounce you back and forth between the waiting room and where you talk to the doctor. But it was extremely cheap, relatively quick for how busy it was. And so yeah, and also I was asked to be admitted. The doctor wanted to admit me to the hospital, and they said the cost for being admitted to the hospital overnight for everything was around $500-$600 total, including tests. Anything that you needed done was that price. Whereas going to the ER for a broken bone here is probably 10 times what staying overnight in a hospital is there. So they have a very cheap, efficient, and I have to say, pretty quality healthcare system.
That's Hong Kong. And you
Which,
know, this is the United States. We're about to pay a heavy price for our shoddy health system, because this is a time when the ability for everybody to get very quick, very high quality testing and that sort of thing is, well, our whole country's about to pay a debilitating price for this, both in loss of life. We'll survive it, but it's going to be with high casualties, and it's going to devastate our economy. There's no way around the fact that our economy is about to have a leg broken. There is no way around that. And a lot of this could have been avoided if we had done more of a if we would have done what epidemiologists have told us we have to do since I was a kid. That's why you heard me in January saying stop all flights. Like, stop them from Hubei province. Who cares? That's like shutting one window in a house when there's, or a hotel building when there's a forest fire going. You're not going to keep everything out unless you shut all the windows, right? It's just we just shut down. We did all these half measures which are irrelevant. It's like we put out half the fires in a house. Actually, we only put out one fire and we let all the rest keep burning. So I mean, and this is nothing new. There's nothing that's happening right now that we have to learn about new. They've known all this stuff for 100 years. I mean, it's like, how did I know about it in January? And I'm not even an epidemiologist. I'm not a virologist. And so simple people like
yeah,
me already knew this, and we're blowing the horn like wildly. We already knew, except we failed to immediately lock everything down, inventory our PPE, our mask and all that, which would have been practically zero. Only 7% are made in the United States anyway. The rest are made in China. I'm talking
oh yeah, they're
masks.
really expensive too.
Yeah, and one of the
People
things that
like I was, yeah.
one of the things that epidemiologists have warned about like in the book 3 Seconds to Midnight, which is a great book. I read it twice. It's worth reading. It's really a great book. Uh, is that credibility, trust is is paramount at a time like this. In other words, our trust in the World Health Organization, which now is practically zero for any intelligent person, is practically zero. And also for the
Yeah.
American Surgeon General, Jerome Adams. Credibility in him is negative. It's not even zero. And same with Tedros at World Health Organization. And one of the things that epidemiologists say, which is absolutely vital at a time like this, is do not, under any circumstances, do anything that puts any crack in your credibility, right? Which we've done at federal level, from whether it's the president or the CDC, of course, at extra federal level, which is not ours, but the World Health Organization, whether it's New York State at the state level or New York City at the city level, municipal level. I mean, trust is broken down practically to molecular level. So we gave up this enemy doubles approximately every 3 days, depending on various things, apparently. For instance,
Yeah.
well, anyway, not to go into that. I'm not an epidemiologist, but it doubles very quickly. So the army against us is doubling rapidly. And yet, so every day that you lose is lives lost and economy more damaged. And so here we are playing total defensive ball game, recovering our organs, basically. Maddie, I would rather hear you
I
talk.
don't even think it's
Go
yeah,
ahead, Maddie.
I don't even think it's going to be over within a year. I think much like the Spanish influenza, which traveled very rapidly, even though there was no commercial air travel, there was very little sort of ability to end up across the world in less than 24 hours. There was basically none. It killed so many people, and we're still pretending like that didn't happen, like that can't happen here, when we have the perfect storm for everything that's coming. I mean, I would also recommend, um, after the initial wave, my plan was to get one of those reusable face masks like they use in Hong Kong and other East Asian countries, just to wear normally, because I don't trust the idea of them saying 6 months, a year from now that it's over and everything's fine, because I don't think it will be. I really don't. I
This
think it'll be an interesting new normal for um, the world
this
now.
this is this is this is going to change the way we live from here on out, because it's going to rearrange a lot of things. And there's going to be the world that we knew before 2020, the world of 2020 and 2021, which is might be even a lot worse. And then there'll be the next world after that. And what is I will guarantee you, as I've been saying since January, there will be famines that come out of this. I don't know where, and I don't know how long they'll last and how severe they'll be, but there will be famines, and there will be wars that come out of this. There will be governments that get overthrown. There will be insurgencies that grow or that spark. For instance, in Nepal, or in with the Maoists in India, which they've been there for many years, of course. Of course, I was out with the Maoists in Nepal quite a lot. I tell you, well, that's a whole different story. We get some Nepalese friends on to talk about that sort of thing. But the implications beyond the virus. The virus is just, well, it's a really big deal, but beyond that are a lot
It's
of
a
other
catalyst.
deals. Yeah, it's a catalyst for other things that can be just as big, if not even bigger. And so that's where I see somebody said that Frank Garbasic left a question, but I didn't see it. And I was looking for it. Frank Garbasic is an old Green Beret friend. And that's why I was looking for Frank's question. He always asks interesting questions. Frank, I don't see what your question was. If you post it again, I hope I'll see it. There's a lot of questions here. Maddie, let me let you have them.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, let me look. Let's see. Um, Sorry, it's hard to find it. My computer's weird. Barbara Spalding asked back about when I was talking about the Hong Kong. I don't think so, but I honestly didn't know what was going on, because only really the doctor spoke English, so I couldn't really ask any questions besides that. U.S. healthcare is so expensive. Um, yeah, I mean, people are asking why the U.S. healthcare system is so expensive compared to other countries, and I think a lot of it has to do with pharmaceutical companies and the way that you have to pay for equipment. So, for a little while, a couple years ago, I worked administrative in a hospice, and PPE kits were like $200 a piece for us. Um, it's, I mean, it's expensive to be able to get basic care that you really need here. Ambulance trips are like $5,000 just to get to the hospital. So, and I think a big reason the virus is spreading is because a lot of people don't have insurance because a lot of people just lost their jobs. I mean, over half my Facebook friends woke up one day and were sent a mass email throughout the entire company, not just individualized, to everybody saying, you don't have a job. I'm sorry. Like, they didn't even say, hey, Sam, you don't have a job. Hey, Kevin, you don't have a job. They just said, hey, everyone on this email, you're laid off, essentially. So people don't have insurance anymore, and it's crazy expensive to get anything done. And it's still, I don't know, there's no one knows really what's going on in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and Cecilia Thompson has just brought up something very important. Anyone see what Brazil's leader said? He wants his economy to keep going, tired of the quote unquote hysteria over this little flu. Yes, I saw it and paid very close attention. And in fact, it looked like UK and some others were going to take that let it burn through strategy in the beginning. Actually, it sounds like President Trump was thinking about doing that. That's effectively, in some ways, what's happening in the United States, even though that's not what is smart or what we want. Or it depends on your philosophy, actually. Because some of this doesn't have really a right or wrong answer. Some of it has a values answer, right? If your values are, or, you know, when you look, if you just let it burn through and shoot for herd immunity, well, that may happen quite quickly but you'll, with heavy casualties, right? No matter what, your economy is going to get hit. There's no way around that. But if you do half steps the way we're doing now, you're kind of getting the worst of both worlds. You're still going to overwhelm systems, maybe less overwhelmed, but still overwhelmed. And your economy is going to be damaged for even much longer before you can start recovery. Whereas what the line of thought in just letting it burn is like, let's put it like this. If I were a general and the entire U.S. population were soldiers, I'd say, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to let it burn. We're going to take our casualties, but we're going to preserve the army, so to speak. And we're just going to take a lot of casualties, but we're going to be back to normal very quickly, right? But that's not the way our country is. That's fantasy land. That's fantasy land. Where, you know, in real world, it's not going to work like that. You know, we're going to self quarantine whether they do it or not eventually, because intelligent people are going to say, look, I just quit work. I'm not going to work. I'm not, you know. At some point, pilots and whatnot are just going to not go to work. Look, you got 500 apparently New York City cops, if that number is correct, who've tested positive. Is that number correct? I don't know. If it's not correct now, it will be soon. And so,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was correct tomorrow.
Yeah, and so there's all these other implications of this that just get dragged out, like lawlessness. Which, if the streets of New York are lawless, we all know what's going to fill that vacuum in Los Angeles, New York, Detroit, Chicago, New Orleans, Miami, Atlanta, St. Louis. It's going to be game on. It's going to be every man for himself, and it's going to be Second Amendment season. So, I mean, the United States is not Japan. Anyway.
I mean, it's going to get bad. If I were in charge, I would just say everyone stay home for a month. National Guard will be bringing food and supplies to your house once a week.
See,
if you get sick, call this number and we'll figure it out.
I like your idea. I like hard lockdown, which is what I've been saying since January. Lock at the federal level, like stop all flights coming into the United States. Or if you're an American citizen, you can come back. You're going into quarantine, period. I don't care who you are. You're going into quarantine until we have testing. If we have testing, and which we don't, but I have totally your mindset. Lockdown and use that time wisely to build as much PPE as possible, mask and whatnot, and testing, so that we can hit it from the bottom as well. Bottom means testing very aggressively, and
Yep.
quarantining and doing trace contacting and all that sort of contact tracing. And so, but we haven't done that. And one of the, again, going back to the credibility issue, that's busted. I mean, there's now, I don't trust the president. I don't trust the CDC. Don't trust the WHO. I don't
Yeah.
trust Como. I don't trust De Blasio. I don't trust any of the governors I've seen so far, because they're all doing things that are like half steps. And
Yeah, I just listened to what my doctors were saying because I mean, some of the symptoms that they said, like the leg swelling, that's not a normal symptom, but they're seeing it. And they're able to say, this is what I'm seeing. This is how you should behave. Like here in Colorado, we have a stay at home order and the parks are filled with people. Like they're just pretending like the stay at home order means stay away from work, which it doesn't. It means stay at home, stop infecting people. I mean, my best friend is my age and she has type 1 diabetes. This could kill her. So it's a very kind of selfish idea of, well, I don't have to work. I'm going to go to the park. I'm healthy and fine. It's not you that you have to worry about. It's everybody else too. Just people really need to stop going out. It's driving me insane a little bit.
Oh, I mean, I totally believe in the lockdown. With the lockdown is clearly, I believe, the wise way to go, right? And to lock down and have and literally go martial law. I know that flips a lot of people out, the idea of martial law. We're going to get to that anyway. But the way that we're going to get to martial law is when there's lawlessness on the streets, and people are doing what they do every time there's lawlessness in some places of America. They start burning down the cities, raping and pillaging and murdering, and causing all sorts of mayhem that radiates for generations. For instance, there's many parts of America now where people cannot get food because there was riots like 2 or 3 generations ago. And so now they have to take 30, 40-minute bus rides to go shopping for food because no stores will open back up in their neighborhoods. Now, how are they going to get there now? Taxi, bus, spread this disease.
Yeah.
How are they going to get fed? So these are very serious issues. The United States is a complex country with many cultures, and the only way that you're going to get compliance on a total lockdown is going to be martial law. It's going to be some form of martial law. But with all this law enforcement that'll be sick just like everybody else soon, how are we going to do it? I mean,
Yeah.
we could definitely do it. The U.S. military has sufficient equipment. You saw the mask that I would wear in Hong Kong all the time. I mean, we've got all kinds of other equipment the U.S. military could wear, so that they don't get infected. Well, Maddie, it's a serious situation. You sound a lot better, though.
Yeah, I'm worried. I've been hearing rumors that there's 2 different strains or that you can get it again. So I saw a comment saying that I could rejoin the real world as much as I want to. I don't think it's smart. Even if like necessarily I don't get sick again, there's always a chance that I could be a carrier. And I don't have work now. Because when I work here, I work in after school programs and everything's shut down. So I think for the next foreseeable future, at least month or so, I'm just going to be stuck here in my house some more with random trips to the grocery store in case I need something.
Yeah, I mean,
It's,
that's what it's coming down to. Uh,
I mean, there may be a day where I drive into the mountains and not get out of my car, but it won't be normal for a while.
yeah, well, let's see we're going to see what happens down in Brazil with the strategy of letting it burn. But see, this is the thing. The world is highly connected, as you know. If Brazil does let it burn, I mean, this is why I was saying back in January, stop all incoming flights to the United States, including any country that allows flights in from China. just stop all flights to the United States. And of course, people are saying that would devastate the economy. Don't you know that? And I'm like, yes, I know that. I get it. I totally get it. It's either do it now or you get it later. One or the other. It's coming. And
I mean, if you did it at the first spot, the way that the economy recovered would have been a lot easier because it wouldn't have been as long as of a lockdown. If you just immediately did it, stopped it before it started to get bad, you wouldn't have to lock everything down while it's bad and prolong the inevitable problem.
Yeah, now it's going to prolong. And now, if let's say Brazil just does a burn through, I mean, we have to stop all incoming flights to the United States, period. All flights, period. All, and it's just unbelievable that there's anybody crossing any borders at this time other than like super official business that's actually vital business.
Give residents 2 weeks to get home, and then not even like a week to get home, and then after that you're stuck.
Yeah, I mean, again,
it sucks, but people are dying.
Again, I've been saying this since January, practically daily. We should give everybody, well, it's too late now. We should have given everybody, say, a week to get home. Go home. You got 1 week or 10 days, whatever. Back in January or February, go home and stay. And you would have gotten some pushback. And right now, it would be a big problem because people would say, hey, what? Nothing happened. You'd be like, yeah, but that's what we were trying to achieve. So you see how this could go, though. But right now, all interstate travel should be shut. That means state to state. Now, that's already starting to flip some people out with Florida saying, okay, we're not going to let people come in from Louisiana or whatever, right? We're not going to let people or New Jersey from New York and this carries its own potential future baggage just the implications can be enormous because once states do flex their individual muscle, if you rewind the tapes back to 1861, as Chris Martenson said, it didn't have to be this way, but it is this way now. So now we've got states in a state of self-defense need to start cutting off other states. Think about that for a minute. I
would love to go see my grandmother. I was planning on going to see her. She lives in Washington State. I was planning on going to see her even before I got sick. And I was like, I'm fly. It's too risky. And I just said, I'm not even driving. Like, I'm not going anywhere really. I'm just going to stay put because it's the only way to ensure that I don't infect other people. I mean, it's got to be some sense of personal responsibility here, not just, oh, I'm fine. If I get sick, I'll be okay. You need to be willing to take a hit so that way it doesn't cripple hospitals. It doesn't permanently change the way we structure our economy, and it doesn't kill as many people as it could.
Yeah, Weston is saying Sweden is even ahead of Brazil. They have never even attempted any shutdown. They are going to be one to watch that happens when this thing runs wild. Oh yeah, and Denmark as well. I've noticed the Danes are not doing the mask. A lot of people, and me included, say why do all the not all. I mean, I wear a mask. I saw Bob Sapp, the famous MMA fighter, movie star, at the veterinarian today when I had to take my sick dog to the vet, and he had his giant horse-like dog in the veterinarian as well, and he was wearing a mask. I mean, we were wearing a mask. So, I mean, he's American. I'm American. We were wearing masks. But I think one of the reasons, I'm just taking a stab at this, that so many Asians in some countries like Japan, Taiwan, and others will wear masks. I think part of it is, especially say in Japan or Taiwan, is they are socially responsible to each other. And then a lot of other Asian countries, I don't think it has to do with that social responsibility as much as self-defense from this incredibly polluted air over here. The air, for instance, I'm in Chiang Mai. If you look up the air quality index, you can see it. I check it all the time. Chiang Mai, where I'm at, is often the worst in the world right here. It's unbelievable. I got big air filters running. It's unbelievable. So if the virus doesn't get you, the PM 2.5 will. So people wear masks for self-defense against that pollution. So a lot of people were wearing masks before this, but that has to do with air pollution, which is pathetic here. That's why when I hear countries over here in Asia telling, America, you're such bad people because you haven't, shut down everything for global warming, which may be actually a real thing. and then I like, why don't you guys attempt to clean up your air first, and then we'll believe that you'll actually help us stop any global issues as a team, right? But if you can't even clean,
Yeah.
you need practically a machete to cut through the air in India, in China, like in Beijing. You know, I've been to China and India many times. The air is so fantastically polluted, and the same here in Thailand.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, flying from Colorado where we have a really good we have very low pollution for the most part. And even to Hong Kong where it's not even that bad was just shocking. I was like, "Oh, you can't really see as far as you can in Colorado, like, and that's not even as bad as it could be." It's just, yeah. But I would recommend people getting there's websites where you can buy reusable, washable masks in general, um, that people tend to have in Hong Kong a lot, where they're just kind of reusable cloth. They're able to keep stuff out, or if you're sick, keep stuff in. I'd recommend eventually getting those in case it ever kicks up again. Because right now everything's sold out.
Yeah, Weston is saying Bob Sapp is in Chiang Mai. Yeah, I saw him at the vet. You know, hours ago. I was taking my dog in for her apartment appointment, and Bob was there with his giant. His dog came out, and I said, "That's the biggest dog I've ever seen in the world." Period. And then he came out. And of course, he's like 380 pounds of ripped muscle. He's a monster, man, and super
Yeah.
friendly guy. Super incredibly friendly as a lot of badasses tend to be. I didn't recognize him at first. I asked him, I said, are you asking if he was military? Because I thought he might be a special operations type guy. Just because of the way he held himself and the confident way that he talked, I thought maybe he's a SF type guy. And he goes, no, he told me he was MMA guy and all that. And I was, oh, crud. Yeah, he beat a lot of people down, man. He's a good fighter. Let's see. There's some important questions here. There's so many. Oh, Barbara's asking the film you show about India. Talk about more about that. The If you've been to India, then it's like enough said, so to speak. If you haven't been to India, I divide the world into two countries. Of the 75 I've been to, there's India and the other 74. Right? It is in a world. It's a class of its own. And India is
Yeah.
just so absolutely packed and chaotic and just dirty in places. It's weird because it's got some of the absolute best people in the world that you'll ever meet, like super high morals and super just fantastically high education and that sort of thing. And then it's got the other end of the spectrum as well. Just completely hell was made for them. Maybe they are hell. Like died and went to that part
Yep.
of India. You know, I spent almost a year there, 10 months. And it was like India is the only country I think about every day of the week. I mean, I could be in a firefight in Afghanistan and thinking, well, it's not India, you know, although I love India too. It's a love hate thing. I want to go back to India. But Maddie, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm just slowly starting to get a little bit tired. I'm still doing naps here and there throughout the day, but I'm not spending 90% of my day asleep, which is nice, but also I'm getting so bored now.
Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah,
You got a lot to study.
yeah.
So, I mean, you're a very intelligent woman. So I know you can keep. But you were reading some very arcane book that you. What was the title of that book? You should have finished it by now, though, right?
Red Famine.
Red. It's called
I
Red
actually
Famine
got,
or Famine,
yeah. Red Famine. So it's by Anne Applebaum. It's
right?
about Stalin's war in the Ukraine and kind of like a political, policy driven and sometimes not policy driven genocide from the USSR on the
Yeah.
Ukraine. But yeah, I got sidetracked by another book, so I'm about 20 pages away from finishing the second book, and then I'll go back to Red Famine.
See, Kimmy Chan makes
So
a statement here. Government told people do not wear mask, only if you're sick. BS. Yeah, exactly. And they lost
nope,
massive
nope.
credibility and also caused untold numbers of deaths. Because keep in mind,
Yeah.
most people, like I spend 7 days a week studying this thing, right? Most people don't have that much time on their hands. They got other things to do, but this is what I do, right? Other people have like 4 kids to raise and a job or whatever. They got things to do. They don't have time to follow everything blow by blow, right? They don't have time. All they have time to do is say, well, what did the Surgeon General say? The Surgeon General said, don't wear a mask. Okay, don't wear a mask. They got 4 kids to take care of. They don't have time to realize that they were just lied to, right? And now they might,
Yeah.
now a mother with 4 kids might be dead and leave those kids motherless. That's how serious this is. I'll never forgive Jerome Adams for what he did. He can get his forgiveness from God because he's not getting it from me. I mean, that was unforgivable. That was a medical sin. Do no harm, Dr. Jerome Adams, Surgeon General. You did harm, and you did it transparently for political reasons. And that's another thing that people should ask themselves before they write or say something. Am I saying this for political reasons or for reasons that have to do with putting out this fire or controlling this fire, mitigating damage to our people and our countries, various countries? We're all in this together. Well,
Yeah, I
Maddie,
mean, even doctors that I talk to, they say, we don't know if that helps, but you bet, like, do it just to be safe, anyways. It's literally going to do no harm to you to wear a mask. It's not like you wear a mask and then something horrific happens to you. It's literally precautionary. Even if it doesn't do anything, it's still just one of those things that you should do just in case. It causes no harm if you do, but there's a potential of it causing harm if you don't.
look at
And that's kind of one of those things.
look at Weston's comment, because I saw stuff like this in news reports today. New CDC guidance on masks expected to change in next 10 days. Americans will be advised to wear a mask in everyday life. Current recommendation is for high risk groups only. See, this is what kind of clown act we got. We've got an act. We've got a CDC, a president, and various governors, Republican and Democrat, who are they are hesitating in the face of an enemy. 10 days for new guidance. That'll be April. Remember the Top Gun? This fight will be over,
Yeah.
and before you can get them off the catapult. That's the way it is right now. This fight will be over. It's already essentially over. The virus, now we're down to details. The virus has won. You know, and President Trump saying, oh, we're going to beat this virus. The virus has just beat your ass. And we just haven't tallied the body count yet. You know, it's too late. It's behind. It's broken through our lines. It's all around us. It's everywhere. It's going to hit Thailand too. I see some big businessmen making comments today, Thai businessmen, all cocky. It's going to kick you in the teeth too, big businessmen in Thailand. You're not that smart. You didn't outrun it. It's going to get you. And because you also screwed up. Thailand screwed up. The United States screwed up. There's only a few countries that did this well. That would be Taiwan. That would be South Korea. Hong Kong, I'll call it a country. Japan, jury's out. Let's see. But
Better than most, I must say.
I'm sorry?
I feel like they're doing a little bit better than most, but that could change pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Japan-wise.
Well, one of the one positive, very important positive side for Japan is they do have a lot of social discipline. They have a lot of cultural discipline. So they have the ability to do things. Well, they'll wear a mask instantly as well. Japanese will not hesitate to wear a mask even if they vaguely think they have a cold. So that the mask thing will certainly slow down the spread. But most countries have completely dropped the ball on this. And it's not because we had to relearn anything. Our scientists and doctors have known for years what we have to do when something like this has to happen. First, obviously, study the enemy. How does this thing spread? What characteristics does it have? And all that. Study the enemy. Know thy enemy, right? And then immediately act without hesitation. And do not ever sacrifice credibility. Credibility is completely broken. You can't fix that broken mirror.
I mean, people have been. I'm good friends with a doctor here in Denver, and when I was talking to him about this whole thing, he's like, we've been talking amongst ourselves in hospitals. If something were to come, we're going to be with our pants down no matter what. He said if it came a year ago or a year from now or now, no matter what it was, there was not going to be enough and they were going to get caught with their pants around their ankles. I mean,
You mean
they
not
have
enough?
known for a little while.
Not enough. Not enough. What?
They wouldn't have the supplies, they wouldn't have the capacity to really deal with something large like they are now. He said he mentioned, he's like, if there's a pandemic or even an epidemic in the area, we won't be able to do as much as we should as doctors. There's already like short supplies, and he's been saying he's known for a while now that if something were to happen, it could be bad.
Yeah, and the obvious thing, as Iris Law says here, is make your own mask. That's simple. It's that simple. Make a mask.
Yeah.
I can make a mask out of this. All right, here. Let me make a mask. There it is. I got a mask. There it is. You see, it works. Now, if I wanted to hold on my face without having to hold it on my face, I can just staple a rubber band to it, and I've got a mask. It's that simple. I mean, we should by now.
Or if like,
go ahead.
If I have really curly hair, so I have like a hair wrap that I always put in my hair. Just turn that into a mask. Just fold it in half instead of putting it on your head. It's simple. It's not going to look cute.
Wait, what is it?
But
what is it?
Like a hair wrap that I put on. So it's like it's kind of like an infinity scarf, but for hair, it's really tight and it sticks to your head to keep your hair from getting really crazy curly. All you have to do is fold it in half and just cover your face with it, and it works.
Yeah.
Not as well as other things, but it works enough.
Yeah, Mike Morgan is saying you need goggles too. You know what? A Hong Kong doctor addressed this in early January. Wear a mask and wear glasses. Wear a mask and wear glasses, and that'll spread a huge amount. That'll mitigate a huge amount right there. Mask, glasses. Yeah. It's like you don't need to have swimming goggles. You know what I mean? You can do it. You can do yourself a lot of like body armor that you wear in a war. It won't stop every bullet. Those bullets will still get you on the side, right? It'll still hit you in the face. You'll still get hit in the arm and die. You know what I mean? But they do stop a lot of bullets. So we're not talking about a perfect mask. We're not talking about, you're not going out in the astronaut NASA suit for a spacewalk. I mean, that would certainly stop it. But just a few simple things could have slowed this down and baffled it and gave us more time to ramp up. But the fact is, we failed for generations. I'm not talking about just this president or just this CDC. Why don't we have masks? This is unbelievable that we don't have enough PPE. It's unbelievable. There should have been a stockpile of like however many billion masks that we need for a minimum of 1 year with no production at all. We should have a mask. We should have enough This makes me wonder, because we often talk about we have a strategic food supply, or we have enough ammunition to run, multiple wars. And then yet, in the two wars that, serious wars that I've been to, we're constantly like running out of like missiles, like Hellfire missiles or whatever. I'm like, how can we be? I mean, we shoot a lot, but we don't shoot that many. You know what I mean? It makes me wonder what strategic food supply do we really have? You know what I mean? Is it really there?
Oh. Yeah, I don't trust it. If they said, yeah, if we have enough food to last everyone for a year, I'm guessing maybe a month tops.
Oh yeah,
at best.
And otherwise they still have to distribute it. That's why I keep telling people since January, stock up, stock up, stock up. It's very important.
And I mean, if you've been doing it since January, like I have, I didn't like go out and mass panic buy everything. Like when I went to get something for dinner for the week, I would add a few extra cans of soup, a thing of frozen veggies. I would grab meat and put it in the freezer. Like I didn't buy 800 things at once, completely clearing the shelves. I just slowly but surely built up a little pile of emergency food in case we needed it. Kevin thought I was crazy.
Yeah.
He's like, why are you doing that? I was like, trust me. Worst case scenario, we have extra food.
Yeah, absolutely. Always. You always want, and also it buys you peace of mind that you can be calm when an emergency happens. You don't need to be thinking, and I need to get food and water. That's the last thing you need to be thinking about, It's like a fireman that's looking for his boots, Hey, the fire alarm just went off. Where did I leave my boots? Uh-oh. Who in the world is calling me? Uh, that's strange. All right.
Yeah.
Let's
But
see.
yeah. Well,
Hey, and I see multiple people have said hello to Frank Garbasic. That's my old Green Beret friend. I don't see Frank on here anywhere. Maybe he's hidden. All right. So yeah, and so I hope you have enough food on there. If not, keep stocking up because remember, and this is important, Maddie, when there's the less prepared the people are around you, the more prepared you need to be, because what'll
yep.
happen is when supply lines do break down, if they break down, which is a significant chance, um, then then people that did not stock up will really be desperate for food, right? And it could get
Yeah.
quite
I have
serious.
a friend here in Denver. Yeah, I have a friend here in Denver who says if anything happens, just come over. Like they have enough guns and ammo to keep us. Because unfortunately, my guns are in Washington State with my grandmother. So all I have is a recurved bow here. Like, it's not going to do a lot,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
and and,
So,
and we see
but yeah,
so many Americans are still blowing this off. Fewer now than just a couple of weeks ago. But again, if they haven't really stockpiled their food, and then suddenly we are having shortages, that will ripple in a very terrible and catastrophic, very quick way. And these aren't theoretical things; they happen all the time. They're normal. Like what's just happened in India, as example. If it's true that 400,000 Nepalese are heading back to Nepal right now, suddenly that's going to, like I was talking with one of my Nepalese friends tonight, Dinesh. And Are you there? Uh-oh. Maddie?
I'm here.
Okay.
Did I cut
And
out?
no, somebody appears to be trying to call me. Maybe they see that I'm online. Hey, if you see I'm online, don't call me. Thank you. So, and but if 400,000 Nepalese just show right up to Nepal now, and Nepal does not have food security, right? That's why I was told my friend tonight. He's a preparation. I mean, we've gone cannibal hunting together, actually, Dinesh, and so he's a quite capable individual. But at the same time, I want to convey to him, like, use your imagination. If you got 400,000 Nepalese coming back from India right now, they're about to be out of work. You know where this goes, and so out of money,
Yep.
and there's not going to be enough food in Nepal to feed them, and India is not going to be shipping up tons of free food, and nor is China, and so the implications of this can be severe. So make sure that, and so the prices are not going to go down. I mean, if you buy a bunch of rice now, you're going to get it at the cheapest you're possibly going to get it in the near future, right? So
Yeah.
the worst case scenario is you buy too much and you eat it later. You get your money back one way or the other. You know what I mean? You're not burning your money. You're just
Yeah.
investing it in life saving food.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. It's everyone's like, "Well, what are you going to do if nothing happens? You know, all of this food." I was like, "I guess I don't have to go grocery shopping for a couple of weeks." I don't it's not it's not like I can't use it if there's not an issue. It's one of those things that you can use either way. And unfortunately, once I get my test results and I'm out of quarantine, I'll probably have to go and stock up a little bit more. But I mean, it's better to have it than not.
Yeah,
Even
yeah,
simple things like those simple little family dinners at the dollar store. It's a meal for one. It'll keep you good for the day.
yeah. I mean, that's
It's just
yeah. And again, the worst case scenario is you buy too much food, and so what? You just eat it. You know what I mean? Over a period of time,
yeah,
and so it doesn't. In reality, though, here's the reasons why you should have a lot of food now. First of all, there might not be that food later, for starters. And secondly, you don't want
yes,
to go out when this really starts to go up the curve, and there's millions of people with this disease, which will be very, very soon. That we're not talking 6 months. We're talking, a couple of weeks. There'll be millions of people with it just in the United States alone. Probably, let me think about this. Oh yeah, easily in a couple of weeks, or easily in a month. Easily in a month, it'll be in the millions, right? And so if
yep,
it's not already, and so you don't want to be going out when it's like that, and also due to the virus, and secondly due to potential criminality at that point because the police will be down, and also prices are not going to go down when there's food shortages. Even if the government
Yeah.
tries to stop price gouging, they're not going to. Just get your food now. You know what I mean? Just get it now. Um,
Yeah. I
if you
mean, if
don't
you
have
get
it,
perishables, put it in the freezer too. Like I have bread in the freezer in case it gets, just in case, because you can freeze things surprisingly well.
yeah. And also, okay, I want to make an important point on that, Maddie. I mean, you bring up an important point. Also, buy as if your electricity is going to go out. So, certainly,
Yep.
I mean, I've got a lot in the refrigerator and the freezer as well, but um, I just assume at some point my electricity is going to go out, and so like the milk I've got
Yeah.
doesn't need to be refrigerated, that sort of thing. And
Yeah.
also,
I
so
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
I grew up in Tornado Alley, so like the first town Tornado Alley if you're heading west to east, and every year we'd buy bags of rice because there's a chance it could literally take the house. It could take your electricity. It could take your ability to use a stove.
It
If
will.
supply chains end up not working for propane tanks, you're gonna need like you need something that you can cook without having to worry about electricity or gas
Absolutely.
or just general
And
general daily life conveniences.
there's my friend Frank Garbasic, old Green Beret friend. Says hello, Jane. Say hi to Teddy. Teddy, another old Green Beret friend. You guys are just lurking out there, huh? I know you guys are prepared. You probably got a whole basement full. One of my Thai friends, her. Listen to this, Maddie. You're gonna like it. You're gonna like this. I know you like to study other cultures. She's a very good Thai friend of mine. Her grandparents were from China, right? So she's what they call Chai Thai or Chai Thai, like Chinese Thai, right? And she's a
Yeah,
very good friend. And she's like, my grandfather and my father always had this huge pools of water, like huge, like under her grandfather's house was almost like a swimming pool. Not for swimming though; it was just water reserve. She's like, I never really understood like why he had so much water. And then my father too. She said, have so much water, all this like enough you can actually swim in it. And she said, I just filled it all up because of what you tell me, like me, because I tell. And she says, now I understand why my father and grandfather they kept. She's like, it must be old ancient knowledge from China when they had water problems. And so they have so much water, it seems almost ridiculous. But there's a reason that they have so much water. It's just cultural knowledge that gets pushed down and tells you, have some water. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
she's like, the last thing I need to worry about is water. She might be watching right now, and she's like, the last thing I need to worry about is water because of my grandfather and father had built these giant water reservoirs.
yeah. I mean, I have those. When I went down to Central America, I got one of those little life straws, and to like filter out water. I would recommend potentially getting one of those on Amazon. Like even if you're like I live in an apartment, I'm not quite capable of having a pool under my house, even though that would be awesome. Like it's just random little things that could go a long way in making sure that nothing happens.
Yeah, and when you're prepared, and also it just like I'm very calm because I know I don't have to if there's big riots or something. Now, one thing I try to convey to my Thai friends, and they some of them realize I'm not crazy when I say this, and others I still think it's kind of crazy. But I say, look at the map and look how close India and Bangladesh really are to Thailand. Look how close Cambodia and Laos are. They're on the border, right? And so, what is Thailand? Thailand has plenty of food and water, although in some places there can be some water issues. But Thailand has a lot of coast, so there's a lot of fishing boats, and so Thailand is pretty good on food and water, although localized can be some problems. But overall, pretty good to go. But what happens when India goes completely bonkers and Bangladesh, super high population density? What are they going to do when they start starving, right? That's why you hear some people go, you need to have, your second house needs to be at least 1 day walk out of any major city. And that's like old wisdom, by the way. Old wisdom is to have
Yep.
your storage place close enough that you can walk to it, but far enough away that it's not within instant striking distance of marauders, right? But when you think about how close Bangladesh and India really are to Thailand, if people start to spill over, which is, look, mass migrations often typically happen when there's famines. Mass migrations often happen when there's a famine, and the possibility of famine in Bangladesh and India is severe at this point. And so, what will happen? Will that splash over to Thailand? I don't know. But when you look at how difficult it is to guard Thai borders, if you look at it from a military mind, that's a difficult border to guard. Very difficult. The land borders, like the Salaween River and the mountainous areas are quite difficult, actually. And so, what are you going to do? Really, are you going to do? So, you need to be prepared, which means everybody needs to be personally prepared. Likewise in the United States, this is why like Brian Kofaja and Steve Bannon and others and I are constantly talking about building the wall down in the South. What are you going to do when South America and Mexico have huge problems and they move north, right? That stuff can happen so quick. It won't just bleed out over a period of 2 or 3 years. It can happen in 2 or 3 weeks. These mass migrations happen when mass migrations happen. They happen suddenly. Very often, it's very sudden, and you have little time to react.
Yeah, I mean, also just a little fun recommendation on a lighter note. If you like, I would get like order a book or two, order some puzzles. Honestly, just something to keep yourself entertained. It gets very boring very fast when you're stuck inside, even if you have internet access. It's just kind of you get bored, and it's a lot easier to deal with when you're stuck inside for potentially. I haven't been outside other than to go to the ER. I've been outside since the 12th. Really, it gets so boring. It honestly really does.
Peggy,
I went through.
Peggy Pete is saying Maddie sounds so much better. You do. You sound at least 100% better. You're definitely coming.
I feel
back.
a lot better.
You're coming back to fighting shape, which is good. I hope that you can't get reinfected. If you cannot get reinfected, which the question is still out on that, but if you can't get reinfected, now you're going to be one of the vital people that can go fight outside. You know what I mean? Like you can help in a hospital, that sort of thing. If it can be, you could actually literally go help in a hospital. You could be like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. You know what I mean? Like, we need you.
And
your duty is in the hospital now. What's that?
Yeah, I help my friend in his medical diagnostic lab. So like, he works with trauma 1 patients and like diagnostics from there. And since I offered, I was like, when it comes up, and it's going to, I'm more than willing to help in testing labs. I'm more than willing because I have some very little medical background, but if everyone else is sick, I at least kind of know what I'm doing.
Yeah, and there's going to be some period here if you can't get reinfected. There's going to be some period here where people like you who apparently have already been infected will be like gold. I mean, you'll be really important to be on the front line and like work 7 days a week, Maddie. So be prepared. So if you actually have just gotten over this soon, and if, let's say, a few weeks from now, then you need to be well rested and join battle. You know what I mean? You need to be like a soldier. Like you're not going to get a day off until like New Year's. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been offering too. I have a couple of friends who are high risk cancer, type 1 diabetes. And I was like, if you guys need anything at all and I can't get reinfected, I will go grocery shopping for you and your family. Like, send me on errands. Let me know what you need. If you know someone who needs help, and I'm fine, I'll help out all I can.
Yeah, and you're going to be so important. You're going to be so important because you're going to be basically wearing the biological fireproof suit. You're going to be able to you're going to be able to swim with the sharks.
yeah, which will hopefully help.
Any other questions for
So
Maddie, or how you feeling, Maddie? You don't sound tired.
I'm good. I'm actually getting a little bit tired, but not too bad. So I think after this, I'm just gonna lay around for an hour or two.
Okay, and read
I mean,
some
probably the rest of the day because I don't have to go anywhere.
and read some book on famine. Let's see.
Yeah.
Actually, I've read a lot of books on famine because of the national security risk elements and historical. Like a lot of U.S. history has been shaped by famine. For instance, the potato famine with the Irish, and so many people came over, and many things like that. So,
Yeah.
in order to understand U.S. history, you have to study famines. And in order to study, if you're going to study national security at a broader level, you need to study things like pandemics and you need to study things like famines, which go hand in hand. If there's a big pandemic, there will be famines. It's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And often
Yeah. I
famines
yeah, I
also
was
lead to
a history
pandemics.
major.
Yeah. So you know
Yep.
what I mean? So
I was a yeah.
so yeah, so when it comes to, that's why when I see this pandemic, I'm like, there'll be famines because they go hand in hand. Famines breed
Yeah.
pandemics and pandemics breed famines. It's a vicious circle.
Yeah. And I got my history degree and I actually specialized in 20th century comparative genocide. So along with that, much like
What a pleasant
famine
subject.
and pandemic.
What
Yeah.
when you
I've
told me
always
in Hong
apparently
Kong,
been morbid.
I asked you in Hong Kong, I was like, oh, so what are you studying? You're like genocide or something. I was like, genocide. Well, that's not something you hear every day. It's not social studies,
Yeah,
that's
that's
for sure.
actually yeah. So I went down to Central America. I got a grant to go research Guatemalan and El Salvadorian massacres for 3 weeks. I mean, it's very morbid, but it's very pertinent. It's still something that is happening, and it's not just necessarily we see genocide in the sense of like, going in and murdering a bunch of people. It's not necessarily that. It's also using things like disease and famine and taking those lack of resources or any resources that they have and taking them and letting it run its course.
Oh yeah.
So I wonder if there's a potential in the future of this pandemic being used in a sort of way to commit genocide.
Oh, I'm sure it will.
I would not be
I'm sure it
surprised.
will. I'll guarantee you there's
I
things
wouldn't be
happening.
surprised if it's already starting.
Oh, I would not. I would be massively surprised if CCP hasn't weaponized this against Uyghurs and Tibetans. I would be massively surprised if they
Oh, I can
haven't done it.
guarantee it. Yeah.
Yeah, or other parts of the world where they
Yeah.
want to maybe, I don't know, have a mining interest in someplace in Africa or something. The and also keeping in mind that genocide has many phases. There's hard genocides like Nazi-esque or Chinese Communist Party or Russian Communist. There's those sorts of
Rwanda.
genocides. Rwanda, yeah, exactly, like machetes, really going for kinetic, violence, right? And then there's softer genocides, which can be famines, which can be water issues, or it can be just driving people off their land, right? So that it doesn't really
Yeah.
register as a genocide because not many people are being killed directly. And then there is a really, I would say maybe one of the softer genocides that I've seen is Hong Kong with mainland China pushing in 100 to 150 mainlanders every day since about 1997. So in other words, they're kind of supplanting the Hong Kongers who then go move and live in Vancouver or someplace else. And so they just leave Hong Kong. So in other words, China just, and then there's cultural kind of a super soft genocide where they just don't let you speak your language. For instance, mainlanders want the Hong Kongers to stop speaking Cantonese, want them to speak Mandarin, right? And reworking the history
Yeah.
lessons in the history books. That's like a super soft genocide that doesn't rise to any level that triggers an international response, right? But it's just as effective
Yeah. I
because
mean,
you end up with the
unfortunately,
land.
yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Unfortunately, most genocides are policy driven. Like the Irish famine, the potato famine wasn't just a potato famine, it was a policy driven attempt by the British government to kind of push people out. And like there were policies that stated that if the person who owned the land died, the land was returned to the British government. There's it's policy driven, so it's not necessarily just, yeah, it's absolutely crazy that it's still happening. It and a lot of it's policy level. It's very interesting, which is why I study it.
Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, you're right. Like with the potato famine, there was much more to it. And typically, with famines, when you study famines, you'll realize there's usually more than one thing that caused it to happen. There's a chain of events. For instance, there was the fungus that destroyed the potatoes, but that's not. There's more to it. There was also the political side, right? Because there was still plenty
Yeah.
of food. Actually, there was still plenty of food. It
Yeah,
was,
there were
but
entire ships rotting in British harbors that were meant to go and help relieve this famine of just food rotting that never
right.
got there.
Yeah,
It was,
and famines, there's usually numerous things that happen together, and usually one of those things is political. Normally,
yep.
somebody either denies helping when they easily could have, or they, trip up other people who are trying to help, that sort of thing. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very interesting. My family is heavily Irish. I didn't know if I red-haired, freckled, so I'm half Irish, and it's always been interesting because when we learned about it in school, it was like, oh, the potatoes got wiped out, and that's all Irish people ate, so they all died. No, that's not the case. It really isn't. It's very interesting. I mean, and it even goes back hundreds of years with political strife, cultural strife, ethnic strife. It's kind of a long-term game that people tend to have working towards a genocide. So it's not like one day you wake up and you say, we hate the Irish. It's a very long-standing kind of building tension that gets to the point where they can do it in violence, they can do it policy driven, they can do it in a way. It's not just one morning you wake up and do it. It's a long driven process to get there.
exactly. Weston is saying, he makes an important comment here that this is serious, but I'm having a hard time reading this comment now. But anyone under 30, it's hard. Something just happened here. Now I'm having a hard time reading this comment. Uh-oh.
Oh, I can read it. I got it. So it says, this is serious, but anyone under 30 years old dying from this is just insanely low. Maddie was never really in any danger. We need to get the antibody test going and get people like her keeping society. I mean, yeah, for the most part, it is really low for people my age, but unfortunately, I do have an underlying lung condition. So I was thankfully very lucky and just kind of, I look healthy. I'm pretty healthy for the most part, but respiratory things can completely knock me out quickly.
Right.
So it's interesting because a lot of people who you wouldn't suspect have underlying health issues do. Just completely knocks you out.
Yeah, and it's also unknown because it's novel. It's unknown if there's any long-term damage being done by this. So, I mean,
Yeah.
people need to kind of chill out on, you're just going to be well. That's unknown at this point. We're not going to, the scientists are not going to know that for a while. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here's you and Kit Moon. Let's see. Cecilia, haven't read it myself, but the book that you're reading, is that by Samantha Powers?
It's by Anne Applebaum.
Oh, okay. But I tell you, the it's very important to understand famines, though. To at least read a couple, 2 or 3 books will really increase it'll change the way you view a lot of things, and actually in realizing how quickly famines can come about, like this pandemic.
Yeah.
For me, it's a no-brainer that famines are going to come out of this. I don't know exactly where or how long they'll last or how many people will die in those famines, but it's pretty much a done deal. It's we'll just see. We'll all know at the same time.
Yeah. We'll all get word.
Yeah, and like for instance, some countries now are stockpiling rice. For instance, Malaysia and Indonesia. I don't know how many. There's probably countries all over the world that are stockpiling at this point. So this is another thing that's important to keep in mind. Is, as I mentioned much earlier, the less the people around you are prepared, the more prepared you have to be. If there's a million people around you who are completely unprepared, you need to be extra prepared because there it's going to be a
Yeah.
long because when everything breaks down, you need to be able to hunker down and kind of hide away, right? You don't want to be out in that fray, right? But this happens also on the national scale. If other countries are not prepared, for instance, with the pharmaceuticals now, India just cut us off, and they make I think 40 to 50% of our generics, which are now cut
Mhm.
off. Americans paying attention. It's not just Americans; it's Thais and others. You're now cut off, right? So whatever's in the supply chain now, hope you get some if you need it. But I've been
Yeah.
warning about this since about January on the pharmaceuticals. Now on, then there's over 80% or the APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, are also made in China, right? So they can cut us off as well. So it's not just us and India. There's also Italy needs it now. Australia needs it. Thailand's going to need it. So we're going to be competing against everybody else for getting whatever drugs we can get, right? And it's going to be a highest bidder type situation. So I mean, so you might be able to stop price gouging at, some town in Florida, with law enforcement, but you're not going to stop
Yeah.
price gouging on the international market. It ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. If the rice prices go up on the international market, the rice prices just go up. Now, then your government might subsidize your price at the store, but then that's draining the national budget. Anyway, bottom line is if you stocked up way in advance, you're in a much better position personally.
Yeah. I mean, eventually the time is going to come when it's not going to be about helping others. Hopefully it won't happen, but there's going to be a time when you're going to have to make that decision of you and your family or helping someone else, unfortunately, because it's just going to get bad. There's not going to be enough for everybody.
Yeah, I mean that's just the way it is. And that's why you need guns. Hey, Barbara Summy is she said, I saw you film in the grocery store. That was some hours ago on Sunday. But young people no mask. Why? Some young people did not have masks. I mean, you could see them on my video today. It's interesting because the Thai health minister was talking about dirty white people a couple of weeks ago or so, to the media. I mean, that's how clever he is. I mean,
Yeah.
how much money can that cost Thailand? Because see, a lot of people will not let that live down, especially competitors for uh, for tourist revenue. They just play that. Do you really want to go to Thailand? This is what the health minister says about white people. Come to Philippines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'll be like, oh yeah, and but at the same time, then there's a somebody caught him on video. I saw the video. He takes his mask off. You can see the video online, and then he just rubs his hand right over his mouth. I'm like, okay, so there's the guy that calls white people dirty for not wearing masks, and then he takes his mask off with cameras. He's so clever. He takes his mask off with cameras all around and just does a can't make up this stuff.
I mean, as I tell my kids when I teach them, if you're going to be stupid, at least don't get caught being stupid. I
Yeah.
mean, it it's crazy. Like you gotta be smart about the mistakes that you make. If
Ronald,
you make a mistake in front of national television, you kind of ruin your credibility.
yeah, like permanently, because it'll be used against you forever if people don't like you. That comes down to how much they like or dislike you as well. Ronald Yip is saying, and food like rice can be kept around for a while. Rice, if you get the right
Yeah.
if you get the right rice and you store it correctly, it will outlive you. It'll even if you're like 10 years old. I mean, if you get the right rice and you store it correctly, the rice is not going to go bad. Period. So I mean,
Yeah, I have a 5 pound bag of rice that I've been carrying around with me since I moved into my first apartment on my own at 17.
yeah, it's just a matter of
Like,
storing it correctly and getting the right rice to begin with. So you've been carrying it since you
yeah,
were 17 and you're 22 now, and you've been carrying the same bag of
yeah,
rice. What are you like?
yep,
Is that like your pet rice?
yeah. Yeah. I never eat rice too much. I'm a big pasta fan, but I know like just in case anything happens, like even before this, like if I lost my job or something, I could survive off of rice for a while. Just
You carry
just in
around a
case
bag.
something happened.
Yeah, you're thinking like I do. Like I carry some chow everywhere I go. Christian is
Yeah,
saying, I think Christian is up in Norway, but saying EU is considering starting up production of meds again because of this pandemic, and should. EU should absolutely,
yeah,
various Germany, various countries, and the United States. We need to take all medical production out of. I want all of American medicine that's of any importance at all made in America. I don't even want it made in Europe. I want it made in America. And Europe needs to make their own
yeah.
drugs too, just for security. Because what if there is, there's some things that should be made at home if they can be made at home. I understand that a country like Switzerland can't make all of their drugs at home. It doesn't make sense. The country's too small. But there's a lot of, but
Yeah.
the EU certainly can make, collectively make everything that you need. Likewise with the
I
United
mean,
States.
even if the EU or the US doesn't use the meds, there's at least that ability for them. Like, even if it's a small operation, they're able to stock up slowly but surely on the meds that they need. And worst case scenario, they're able to ramp up production. But now, if there's nothing, you can't really start from the ground up. You need at least some sort of foundation for what you're doing.
Mike Morgan says Maddie needs to be a Survivor contestant. Well, I tell you what, I've never heard anybody with pet rice before. Maddie, you are an original. The pet rice.
It's good rice.
Actually, it'd be good to get kids to carry around pet rice just to get it in their heads. Like, I must always be prepared. Always be prepared.
Always have rice. I mean, I always have snacks in my backpack. Like, there's food in my car. There's always food somewhere that I am. Also, partially because I just eat a lot, but still, I always make sure that I have something.
What about? Have you ever heard of pet rocks before?
Yeah, I had one as a kid.
Really? I thought those went out of style like 200 years ago. So you actually had
Oh
a
no,
pet rock.
I put googly eyes and a superhero cape on it.
I didn't know anybody
rock.
still had pet rocks. That's funny. All right. Well, it's almost 4 a.m. here in Thailand, and so I need to shut it off and prepare for a big day, Maddie. And if you need anything, shoot me a message. But you sound much better now. You sound so much better.
Yeah.
You're gonna fight.
I feel better. So
you're gonna fight through this
as long
thing.
as it can't come back.
Tell them you don't need a stupid virus test anymore. You need a antibody test to see if you've actually survived it. Because if you have, you need to go to the battleground and get up, volunteer at the local hospital and tell them you've already, actually, of course, making sure that you can't be reinfected.
Yeah, that's my only concern is reinfection, but hopefully not. We'll see how it goes in the next couple of weeks.
Great. Well, it's good talking with you, Maddie, and I'm going to sign off from here in Thailand as well. Bye, Iris in Hong Kong. I guess you're in Hong Kong, and unless you're in Canada. Now you guys know why we. Ronald Yip says, now you guys know why we Asian secret, why we love our rice so much. pet rice. Yeah. And also one thing about
Cody just texted me and said hi, by the way, Mike. Cody texted me and said hi.
Oh, say hi to Cody. Is our mutual friend that was doing medic work over in the fighting in Hong Kong. And it's funny.
I think he's been on your show before.
What's that?
I think he's been on your show before when you interviewed first aiders.
Oh yeah, I had Cody on in Hong Kong, but that was live on the streets of Hong Kong. Cody's become kind of famous in Hong Kong now because he, when that big, the stampede happened, Cody was out there helping as much as he could, and he's just, Cody, he's out there, he's Johnny on the spot. He's like you. I mean, you guys are out there.
He's huge.
Yeah.
He's also giant. Like, I'm pretty convinced his thigh is the size of my waist.
Oh, he's gigantic.
He's just a
He's
giant person.
7 feet taller. He's like Jack and the Beanstalk.
And he's very white and very red haired too. So you can see him.
Yeah, you
can see him block the way.
He's totally Southern too, and so that's why he's easily you get along with him. Like in the first 2 minutes, it's like, oh, he's another Southern guy, and he's like, Easy to get along with.
Oh.
Oh, tell him hello. And anyway, good day to you, and I guess good morning to me. It's 0402 here in Thailand.
Yeah. Good morning.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know. I'm talking to everybody here, not just you, Maddie. I don't know if I'm going to be on the John Bachelor show on Tuesday morning or not. I got a long email from the producer tonight. We were just chit chatting, but didn't mention about whether or not going on the show because they're up in New York, and it's very important for them to cover New York right now. I mean, New York,
Yeah.
New York always gets hit with bad stuff, but New York always somehow just comes like ties. Ties get hit hard and get right back up. And all right, good night or good day to you, Maddie, and good morning to me.
Bye. Thank you, everyone, again for all the well wishes. It was greatly appreciated.
Bye, Maddie. Okay.
Bye.
Yeah, Maddie's awesome. She should be offline now. She's awesome. Well, it looks like she's fought her way through it, and hopefully she'll get. Well, it doesn't matter if she gets her test results back now because it looks like she's coming through the other side of the clouds. And so let me go ahead and shut off now. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around and asking so many smart questions for Maddie. Mike out.